Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is your third lecture of history for class 8th. Chapter number 1, Consolidation of British Rule. This lecture is the continuation of lecture number 1 and lecture number 2. In last two lectures, we discussed the formation of British rule and the reforms of Britishers. Today our lecture is about acts implemented in subcontinent. We will start from page number 8. Everything has some rules. Like when a teacher teaches a class, she says you should have a pencil in your hand. Concentrate on your book. If you find any difficulty during lecture, raise your hand and ask the question. These are some rules for a class. If a class needs some rules, obviously, country can't run without rules. When Britishers started their rule in India, they introduced some acts which helped them to rule in some continent. So today we will read acts implemented in subcontinent by Britishers. SLOs. Inshallah, after this lecture, student will be able to understand Indian Council Act of 1861, Indian Council Act of 1892, Indian Council Act of 1909, and Indian Council Act of 1919. The first act introduced by Britishers was Indian Council Act of 1861. It was introduced in the period of Lord Canning, and the major features were: number 1, under this act, the Indian people were included in Governor-General Council for the first time in the history of India. Don't forget here that these were all the efforts of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. In the process of transfer of powers to grassroots level started. Number 2, provincial governments of Bombay and Madras were partially allowed to legislate. Viceroy would approve the laws of provincial legislative council. Religious practices of any community or foreign affairs were to be presented for prior before time approval of President to the Provincial Legislative Council. Number 3, the Governor General was given power to nominate. Nominate means these people were selected, not elected. They didn't take part in election. They are the selection of the Governor General. At least 6 or maximum 12 members to his council, with half of the members as non-official. There were two types of members. Number 1 was official and number 2 was non-official. Official means civil servant and non-official means scholars, landlords or other able persons. After 31 years, Britishers introduced their second act, which was known as Indian Council Act 1892. This act was presented by Richard Ashton Cross on 9th February 1892. These all laws were passed by British Parliament, and the major features were: number 1, according to 1892 Act, members of the municipal committees and representative of business communities were nominated in the central and provincial councils. These nominated members would take part in legislative process. Number 2, Number of non-official members was increased in the councils. The number was increased to 16 in Central Council. For small and big provincial councils, the number was increased to 15 and 20 respectively. Number 3. District boards, municipal committees, farmers and Chamber of Commerce were supported to elect the members of these councils. After 17 years, Britishers brought a limited increase in the involvement of Indians in the governance of British India. The Indian Council Act 1909 was also known as Minto-Morley reforms. Minto and Morley were two persons who presented this law in 1909, and the major features of this act were: number 1, under the act, the members of Legislative Council were increased. It was fixed 54 in Bengal, 49 in Bombay, 49 in Madras, 50 in United Provinces, 27 in Punjab, and 18 in Burma. Provincial governments were allowed to prepare their budget. A budget is a financial plan for a defined period. Number 2, the maximum number of non-official members of the Central Legislative Council were raised from 16 to 60, who were selected by the provincial councils and different sects. Number 3, 2 Indian members were included in the Council of Secretary of State. Number 4, the Governor General was empowered to nominate 1 Indian member out of 5 members in his Executive Council. Last but not least, the 5th point was the right of separate electorate was given to Muslims. Separate electorate means separate election for special community. Means if the election happened for Muslim seat, all the contestant will be Muslim. So in the end, only Muslim will be elected. First time it was requested in Shimla deputation, which met the government under the leadership of Sir Aga Khan. After 10 years, Britishers introduced one more act in 1919, which was known as Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Montagu and Chelmsford were two persons who presented this act, and the major features were: number 1, under the Act of 1919, the Central Legislature was enlarged and reformed. It became a bicameral legislature for all Indians. Bicameral means 2 houses. One is called Upper House and the other is Lower House. The Lower House was known as Legislative Council, and you can see the table on the screen. Legislative Council of 145 members, out of which 104 were elected and 40 were nominated for the tenure of 3 years. The upper house was known as Council of States, consisted of 33 elected and 27 nominated members for the tenure of 5 years. Number 2, the Executive Council of Governor General was consisting of 6 members, including 3 Indians. Number 3, the Affairs applicable to local government, health, education and police were under the control of provinces. Number 4. There would be a direct election and extension of communal franchise to Sikh community. In this last point, it means Muslim got separate electorate in 1909, and in 1919 Britishers accepted Sikh as a separate community, so they gave them the rank of community and as well as they gave them separate electorate. Here we ended with our acts, and now this is your home assignment. Question number 1. Write an analysis on Indian Act 1861 for the inclusion of native people in government's affair. You will get the answer of this question on page number 8. Question number 2. Write a note on Central Legislative Council under the Act of 1919. You will get this answer on page number 9. Remember, these both questions are long questions, so you will write in detail and you will write these answers on your neat copy. Home assessment is necessary. It will be checked by your teachers when school reopens. Thank you so much, Bache. Thanks a lot. Stay blessed.